Same thing over and over. They commit idolatry. God hands them over to their enemies. He doesn't protect them. And then once they're oppressed for a while, then they start seeking God again. And well, if there's any lesson in this book, it's don't get to that point. Okay, God doesn't want you to get. He doesn't. Don't do that. Don't do that. Follow God all the time, in good times and not good times. Hello and welcome to Applicata Biblia. My name is Mark. Thank you so much for stopping by as we get into a little bit of God's Word. We are continuing in the series, Walk Through the Bible, the characters in the Bible, and we are currently reviewing some of the characters that we see in the book of Judges. And we left off with somebody, the last guy, Abimelech. He was really not a judge at all. He was just kind of a jerk. I don't know what to call him, but he was evil. He was very, very evil, and just really part of this disunity that we're seeing in Israel at this time. We are in the book of Judges, and so after this period, we will see the kings, but there's going to be probably about 5 more lessons after this one. There's more people to look. Guys like Samson, who we need to take a look at to get a clear picture of what's going on during this period. So who are we going to talk about today? We're going to be in Judges chapters 10 and 11. Judges chapter 10 and 11. And I'm going to do the same thing where I just bring up the story. I'm going to recount the story. And in this story, there's a couple of main messages I think we should take away. And again, if you can think of some, let me know what you think. But after I'm done doing that, I'll go ahead and I'll do the reading, and you can read along with it, or you can, what I use is the LITV, the literal version translation. And so if you want to read your own Bible, that's fine, or I'm going to put the text on the screen. Okay, so who are we going to talk about today? Well, we're going to talk about Jephthah. Now, Jephthah is a warrior, okay? And that makes sense, right? That, God is first allowing his people to be taken over because they're committing idolatry. And this is the same story. Same thing over and over. They committed idolatry. God hands them over to their enemies. He doesn't protect them. And then once they're oppressed for a while, then they start seeking God again. And if there's any lesson in this book, it's don't get to that point. Okay, God doesn't want you to get. Don't do that. Don't do that. Follow God all the time, in good times and not good times. So what do we know about him? Well, Jephthah is a Gileadite. He lives in the land of Gilead. Now, if you remember last week, I talked about Shechem. Shechem is, about midway going north from Jerusalem to the northern part of their kingdom. It's midway between the Dead Sea and the Sea of Galilee, right? And but Gilead is on the eastern side. Shechem was on the west side. So we see that they're getting oppressed from every which way. And in this one, they are oppressed by the Philistines and the Ammonites. Now, before we get to him, there's 2 other guys who are mentioned before Jephthah. One of them is Tola. He's from Issachar, and he reigned 23 years. The other is Jair, and he's a Gileadite, and he reigned 22 years. And then we get into the story of Jephthah. Now, like I said, the Ammonites and the Philistines are oppressing Israel. Now, this is the whole entirety of Israel. The Philistines, and you're going to hear a lot about the Philistines, are a coastal nation on the Mediterranean side, on the west side of Israel. And the Ammonites, well, they're coming in from the east side, on the other side of the Jordan River. And the Ammonites are so strong, and they're just oppressing Israel so greatly, and they're so powerful. They actually go in they cross the Jordan and are, so they're going in, and they're actually going up against Judah, which is on that western side. So that's how weak and I want to say undisciplined, that they're probably not very united except in their own clans, and they're not acting like a nation because they're not, again, focusing on God over and over again. Focus on God. How can your faith grow if you're not focusing on God? That's one of the big things we should learn from this whole book. If you're not focusing on God, you're going to be focusing on something else, and it's going to be not God, and not that it might, but that will cause problems in our life. Okay, so what happens? Well, they're being oppressed, and they're getting it all over the place. And Israel confesses to God. They say, this is amazing to me. They say to God, we have sinned because, they even say they know what they're doing. They say, we're worshiping these other idols, and, we get it. We're not obeying you like you told us. They know that they're doing this sin. And God speaks, he's speaking to them, and he says to them basically, I'm the guy who got you out of Egypt. I'm the guy who, stopped the Moabites. I'm the guy who stopped these people from hurting you. I stopped these people from hurting you. I'm the one who brought you into this land so you could even live here. And then he says to them, why don't you go to one of those other gods and ask them to help you? And Israel answers him and says, they say it again, we have sinned. And they say, do to us whatever you want, but we want help defeating our enemies. And they put away their idols. Now, that is huge. That is a big deal. That is probably, well, not to me, it is the focal point, one of the main points, the keys to this whole chapter. Number one, they knew they were sinning, and yet they kept doing it, right? They knew they were sinning, they kept doing it. And God turns his back on them. And it's like I've said before, once you delve into this idolatrous way of living, God can't do anything with you any longer because you're rejecting him, right? If you reject somebody and send them away, you can't expect them to help you. That is his message. But the main part of this is they repented. Now, this is something that people seem to miss all the time in the Old Testament, about the Old Testament, is when somebody repents. And in the Old Testament, there are some scriptures about this, that God really does appreciate and love a contrite heart. Somebody who trips over themselves to say, okay, God, no, I know. I see what you're saying. I'm wrong. Somebody who's honest. Somebody who is humbled before God. That is all that God is looking for, right? That's what God's looking for. How do we know that? Well, look at Jesus again. Look, there's Jesus. Look what Jesus did. He lived in heaven. He lived in heaven and came down here to live with us, full of backaches and feet hurting and having to work all day, and, sun's hot, you got to get water, and, you have bodily functions you got to take care of all the time. Come on. That is God's main point, is he loves us. That is the main point that we know now. But in this time, they're just saying, God, no matter what you got to do to us, just don't let this keep going. And they put away their idols. God listens to our confession. Okay? Now, a lot of people don't like that term, because they think about, this is like that church over there that talks about confession and only the priest. No. This is between these people and God. And when you're alone at home and you have something to tell God, I know that I did the sin, just tell him. Tell him that you need help. I need help with the sin. Help me with it. And God will listen. As soon as they said this, as soon as they confessed their sin and then put away the idols, it says that God felt their grief. He was grieving for the things that they were going through. I think he already was, but he couldn't do anything about it before. And that to me is, again, paramount to this whole message. If you're going to commit idolatry in whatever form, and we've talked about the abstract part of that in today's world, he can't help you. It's not that he doesn't want to. It's like any good father. They want to help you. But if you don't make yourself available to it, he can't. Pretty simple. And I know a lot of people says, no, you can't make yourself. He makes you available. It's like, no. You have to move into his sphere. You have to move into his sphere. You're not saved because you did anything. I'm not saying that. But you have to act. If you don't act, God won't act. And this is what we're seeing throughout all of Scripture. All, including the New Testament. Okay, so what happens? Well, God is moved, and about this time, we don't see this big dialogue between God and Jephthah like we do with like Gideon or something like that. But Jephthah musters up this army, and the people want him to help them. And there's a couple of other things really quick. Now, Jephthah is a son of a prostitute, just so you know. Okay? Now, here's God again using some of the least respected people to do great things. He's a great warrior, but he's the son. He's the son of a prostitute. And so that means he doesn't have an inheritance, by rights or anything like that. And he's pretty much disowned by his people, right? And then these leaders, after they've disowned him, call for him. And he says, oh, sure. Why do you need me now? Before I was just a prostitute's son. Now you want me to lead you? Am I going to be the head over you? And they say, yes, you know it's because we're being oppressed. That's why we're calling you. Yes, you will be the head over us. When he realizes that all of these things are going to happen, he does put together this army. And the first thing he does is, he's not dumb. He's actually pretty smart. He doesn't want to just go into battle. He sends people to go talk to the people of Ammon, the leaders of the Ammonites, and he says, "Look, who am I? What have we done to you? Why did we have to have a war?" Basically saying, "Let's have peace." Well, they send him a message and they say, "No, look, I'll tell you what, you guys came in here a long time ago when you came out of Egypt, and you took our land from here to here to here to here." And Jephthah sends them a message back. And he says, no, let's get this straight. Here's what happened. We came into this part of the land, and they wouldn't let us come in, so we came around this way, and we went over here, and we actually took it from those people. We didn't take it from you, so we have no beef. That's just the way it is. We have no beef. So, let's not fight. He doesn't want to fight. He's a smart warrior. If you can get away without fighting and not losing life, good for you. Well, they don't listen to him, and they're ready to go to war. So, obviously they gather up their troops, and so Jephthah knows we're going to war. So what does he do? Well, he's on his way, and he makes a vow. And this is right, the part of the story. Jephthah makes a rash vow. He's going along, and he says, he makes a vow with God. And he says, Lord, if you give me victory today, if you give me victory, then the first thing that comes out of my house, I will give to you instead of a burnt offering. So he goes out, he goes to war, and what happens? Well, he wins, right? God's with him. All the people have turned toward God. That is why, I mean, when you look at the story, you see that is why God is with them, because they have turned toward him. And there's language in there that talks about everything is before God. Like when the people say, we're going to make you head over us, they say, we're saying this before Jehovah God. He's our witness. So God is now being the focus. He's the center of attention. And so when Jephthah goes out, he's a warrior and he does great. And he drives out Ammon and Ammonites and all those people, and he's protecting everybody. And of course, he goes home, and what happens? Well, the first thing that comes out of his house is his daughter. Not good. Not good at all for him, because at that very point, he sees his daughter. He remembers his vow, obviously, and he just says, "Oh, my daughter, you're bringing me low, because I made a vow to God." And she goes to him and learns, what did he do and all this stuff. And she goes, well, just do what you got to do, because God has avenged you today. God is the one who's delivered us. So here's God. They see who God is. That's probably the bigger story. That's way more important than what's going on right here. That's the story. They know who God is again. That's great. That's the great part. Unfortunately, Jephthah made this dumb vow. Now, a lot of people want to say that she was burned instead of the burnt offering, that he burned her alive and made a sacrificial offering of her. But I don't think so. When I read it, what happens is she says, okay, Dad, you made this vow, and you need to, because this is with God, you have to uphold that vow. Just give me 2 months that I can go into the hills with my friends and mourn my virginity. And the meaning of that is basically, I'm not going to have any children. I'm going to die without bearing any children. And it was that belief then, as it should be today, that the most powerful thing that any woman can do, if her body is capable, is to bear children, because it perpetuates God's creation. The magical thing, not magical, but the beautiful, powerful miracle almost, because it's not a miracle. God made it so that it's all natural, of making a baby inside of your body is unique to women. And, we've kind of lost that, we've kind of lost how powerful that really is. That like God, a woman is creating somebody. Of course, it's not like how God did it. But she is like walking with God when she does that. And so that is the power behind that. And then there was 4 times a year where they implemented these remembrances of Jephthah's daughter, because she didn't have any children. So I think the idea behind it is that she became celibate and didn't bear any children, and likely devoted her life to God in some fashion. I don't know how. I made that up, but I think that's likely what it was. I don't think that he sacrificed her by burning her. So that is one of the biggest things we see is the people, when they return to God, God just, he's got that great passion for his people. But you're not going to see it if you're rejecting him. That, again, is the overarching message of all old scriptures. And of course, there's the idea of stressing about taking vows. You know, there aren't a lot of times when we take a vow. You know, we sign a contract, that's an oath. There aren't too many verbal oaths that we take unless we're going to be a police officer or we get into the army or something like that, you know, or when we get married. And when Jesus comes along in Matthew chapter 5, I think it is, starting at verse 34, he starts talking about swearing. He says, don't swear. That's really, he ultimately, you know, he says, he prefaces it with, you know, keep your vows that you swear to, you know, if you swear to God, do it. And then he says, you know, it's better not to even do that. Don't swear. Just let your yes be yes and your no be no. In other words, let your word be powerful for other people. When you say you're going to do something, do it. You don't say, I promise, I promise. Just every time you say you're going to do something, and you won't have to promise. That's what God does. We say we live on God's promises. Promises? How many promises did God make? Well, he swore one time in the scripture that I can think of, and he swore on his own name because there's nothing greater, and that was with Abraham. But we don't see a lot of swearing to anything going on in the scriptures, and it's important to know that. Vows are really important. That's how God sees it. That's how we should see it. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and narrate the story. I'm going to read and show the text. And if you want to follow along, that's fine. It's a good story. It's a very interesting story of you know, being in one position of lowliness, but having a skill stack that people need, and you know, God using that. That part of the story I think is very interesting. Okay. Judges chapter 10, starting at verse 1. And after Abimelech, Tola, the son of Puah, the son of Dodo, a man of Issachar, rose up to save Israel, and he lived in Shamir in the hills of Ephraim. And he judged Israel 23 years, and he died and was buried in Shamir. And after him, Jair, a Gileadite, rose up, and he judged Israel 22 years. And he had 30 sons who rode on 30 donkeys, and they had 30 cities, which are called the towns of Jair to this day, which are in the land of Gilead. And Jair died and was buried in Kaman. And the sons of Israel did evil in the sight of Jehovah again, and served the Baals and Ashtaroth, and the gods of Syria, and the gods of Sidon, and the gods of Moab, and the gods of Ammon, and the gods of the Philistines. And they forsook Jehovah, and did not serve him. And the anger of Jehovah glowed against Israel, and he sold them into the hands of the Philistines, and he put into the hand of the sons of Ammon. And they crushed and oppressed the sons of Israel in that year for 18 years, all the sons of Israel that were beyond the Jordan in the land of the Amorites, which is Gilead. And the sons of Ammon crossed over the Jordan to fight against Judah also, and against Benjamin, and against the house of Ephraim. And Israel was greatly distressed. And the sons of Israel cried to Jehovah, saying, We have sinned against you, even because we have forsaken our God, and we have served the Baals. And Jehovah said to the sons of Israel, Did I not save you from the Egyptians, and from the Amorites, and from the sons of Ammon, and from the Philistines, and the Sidonians, and Amalek, and Maon have oppressed you? And you cried to me, and I saved you out of their hand. Yet you have forsaken me and served other gods. Therefore I did not save you again. Go and cry to the gods which you have chosen, let them save you in the time of your distress. And the sons of Israel said to Jehovah, we have sinned. Do to us whatever may be good in your eyes, only please deliver us this day. And they removed the gods of the alien from among them and served Jehovah, and his soul was grieved with the misery of Israel. And the sons of Ammon were called together and camped at Gilead, and the sons of Israel were gathered at Mizpah. And the people said, the chief men of Gilead, each man to his neighbor, who will be the man who will fight against the sons of Ammon? He will be head over all the people of Gilead. And Jephthah, the Gileadite, was a mighty warrior, and he was the son of a harlot woman, and Gilead fathered Jephthah. And the wife of Gilead bore sons to him, and the sons of the wife grew up, and they threw Jephthah out, and said to him, you shall not inherit the house of your father, for you are the son of another woman. And Jephthah fled from the face of his brothers, and lived in the land of Tob. And worthless men were gathered to Jephthah, and he went out with him. And it happened after some time, the sons of Ammon fought with Israel. And it happened when the sons of Ammon fought with Israel, the elders of Gilead went to bring Jephthah from the land of Tob. And they said to Jephthah, come, and you shall be our commander, that we may fight against the sons of Ammon. And Jephthah said to the elders of Gilead, have you not hated me? Yea, you threw me out from my father's house. Why have you come to me when you are in distress? When the elders of Gilead said to Jephthah, for this reason we have come back to you now, and you shall go with us and fight against the sons of Ammon. And you shall be our head to all the people of Gilead. And Jephthah said to the elders of Gilead, if you take me back to fight against the sons of Ammon, and Jehovah gives them up, shall I be your head? And the elders of Gilead said to Jephthah, Jehovah shall be witness between us. Surely we will do according to your word. And Jephthah went with the elders of Gilead, and the people appointed him head over them and as commander. And Jephthah spoke all his words before Jehovah in Mizpah. And Jephthah sent messengers to the king of the sons of Ammon, saying, What have you to do with me, that you have come in to me to fight in my land? And the king of the sons of Ammon said to the messengers of Jephthah, because Israel took my land when he came up out of Egypt, from Arnon even to the Jabbok, and to the Jordan. Now restore them in peace. And Jephthah sent messengers to the king of the sons of Ammon, and said to him, so says Jephthah, Israel did not take the land of Moab and the land of the sons of Ammon. For when they came up out of Egypt, Israel went in the wilderness to the Sea of the Reeds and came in at Kadesh. And Israel sent messengers to the king of Edom, saying, please let me pass on your land. And the king of Edom did not listen. And Israel sent also to the king of Moab, and he was not willing. And Israel remained in Kadesh. And he went through the wilderness and went around the land of Edom and the land of Moab, and came in at the rising of the sun to the land of Moab. And they camped beyond Arnon, and did not come into the border of Moab, for Arnon was the border of Moab. And Israel sent messengers to Sihon, the king of the Amorites, the king of Heshbon. And Israel said to him, please let me pass on your land to my place. And Sihon did not trust Israel to pass through his border. And Sihon gathered all his people and they camped in Jahaz and fought with Israel. And Jehovah, the God of Israel, gave Sihon and all his people into the hand of Israel, and they struck them. And Israel took possession of all the land of the Amorites, the inhabitants of that land. And they took possession of the border of the Amorites, from Arnon to the Jabbok, and from the wilderness, and to the Jordan. And now Jehovah our God dispossessed the Amorite from before his people Israel. And would you possess it? Whatever Shemosh your God causes you to possess, do you not possess it? And all that which Jehovah our God has dispossessed from before us, we will possess. And now, are you at all any better than Balak, the son of Zippor, the king of Moab, and striving? Did he strive with Israel? Did he ever fight against them? When Israel lived in Heshbon and its towns, and in Aroer and its towns, and all the cities by its sides of Arnon, 300 years, then why have you not delivered them in that time? So I have not sinned against you, and you are doing me wrong to fight against me. Jehovah, the judge, shall today between the sons of Israel and the sons of Ammon. And the king of the sons of Ammon did not listen to the words of Jephthah, which he had sent to him. And the Spirit of Jehovah was on Jephthah, and he passed through Gilead and Manasseh, and passed through Mizpah of Gilead, and from Mizpah of Gilead he passed on to the sons of Ammon. And Jephthah vowed to Jehovah and said, if you will indeed give the sons of Ammon into my hand, then it shall be that anything which comes out from the doors of my house to meet me when I return in peace from the sons of Ammon, it shall belong to Jehovah, and I will offer it instead of a burnt offering. And Jephthah passed over to the sons of Ammon to fight against them, and Jehovah delivered them into his hand. And he struck them from Aroer until you come to Minnith, even 20 cities, and to the meadow of the vineyard, a very great destruction. And the sons of Ammon were humbled before the sons of Israel. And Jephthah came to Mizpah, to his house. And behold, his daughter came out to meet him with timbrels and with choruses, and she alone, there was no other son or daughter to him. And it happened, when he saw her, he tore his garments and said, alas, my daughter, you have brought me very low, and you are among those making me low. And surely I have opened my mouth to Jehovah, and I am not able to take it back. And she said to him, my father, you have opened your mouth to Jehovah. Do to me whatever has gone out of your mouth, since Jehovah has taken vengeance for you on your enemies, on the sons of Ammon. And she said to her father, let this thing be done. Leave me alone 2 months, and let me go and descend on the mountains, and I will weep for my virginity, my friends and I. And he said, go. And he sent her away 2 months, and she went, she and her friends, and she wept for her virginity on the mountains. And it happened at the end of 2 months, she returned to her father, and he did to her his vow which he had vowed, and she never knew a man. And it is a fixed custom in Israel. From days to days, the daughters of Israel go tell again of the daughter of Jephthah the Gileadite 4 days in a year. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that story of Jephthah and all the meanings behind it and all the things that God wants us to learn from it. It's not just a fairy tale, it's something there that God puts for us to learn. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.